Shut up and sit down.
All right, lightning round, segment 3. Here's some quicker questions. John's will be quicker than mine. It's an ongoing joke. I might go a little more in depth, but here's the first thing I want to know. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. Put them in order. You guys are Wisconsin guys. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. What's your favorite?
Well, Badgers can't be first for me anymore.
Makes sense.
I would say Packers, Bucks, Brewers, Badgers now.
Bo, what about you?
Well, Badgers first. Like I said, you spend 40 years in the state. It's that's easy. You didn't give a couple other options like Eagles, Phillies, or
Phoenix,
or Green Bay. But anyhow, I'm a Bucks guy, definitely, and also the Brewers. I really like watching them play. I've had a chance to throw out the first pitch, and that's pretty exciting. And by the way, they were strikes.
Good for you.
Of course they were.
But yeah, I'd have to go in that order.
And here's my last one. Bo, you got a court named after you. When that happens as a coach or a player, that's, I mean, other than winning the national championship, which, oh yeah, you've done that too. They named a court after you. Tell us that story quick.
Well, the best part of the story is that I was going to go down separately. We were on our way to play Iowa, and the players said, "No, coach, we're going to go to the Platteville game." They were playing Eau Claire when they did the dedication, and I said, "Really, you guys want to do that?" And they said, "Yeah, we want to be in the stands when they put the name on the court." So we had the Badger team there, and I didn't want it to interfere with our juju of our routine that when we go play on the road. And it was a great afternoon. And then we went down and practiced it in Iowa City, and we did beat Iowa the next day. So that was an extra treat. We were very thankful as a family and as a coach and person that spent 15 years there, that they would do that, and it was quite an honor.
This just dawned on me when you said the Eagles. When you're 13 years old, the Eagles beat the Packers in the NFL championship game. Like, is that a memory for you?
You mean the 1960 NFL championship?
Yeah, when Concrete Charlie held down Jim Taylor against his will and ran out the clock.
Yes, I was there with my dad.
Wow.
We actually snuck into the game because we didn't have the 8. I still have 2 stubs that a buddy of his floated over the wall at Franklin Field. And so we used those stubs and dropped them as we got to the ticket taker. And they only tore tickets and there was no scanning. And so my dad said, "Hey, you already ripped these." Oh, okay. So we went into the game, found a couple seats. We tried to get the goalposts afterwards. The Philadelphia police surrounded Franklin Field and wouldn't let us get to the goalposts. And then people started throwing snowballs and ice from underneath the chairs. It had snowed the night before. And some guys broke Seagram's 7 bottles and put the glass into the snowballs. They had pictures of the police the next day, which was terrible, with blood on their faces. And finally, Frank Rizzo, who was the chief of police then and later became mayor, he pulled the police back and we went on the field and tore the goalpost down. I have a piece in the other room here in our condo. I do have a piece of that goalpost and the 2 ticket stubs. So was I there? Yeah, I remember it. Yeah.
So, wow. And after 40 years in Wisconsin, we don't feel guilty about that. Our allegiance is still with Fly, Eagles, Fly.
I understand, but I also root for the Packers. I do.
You can't have it both ways here, Bo.
Well, when they play each other, I do.
When push comes to shove, which side are you on?
If what?
When push comes to shove, what side are you on?
I have to root for the Eagles and the Phillies.
I'm not mad at you.
Listen.
Good for you. Listen, I root for GB, right? When they're out there playing, I don't care if it's Cleveland State or Eau Claire, who they played, I'm on that side. So, Will, can you name anybody from that championship, that 1978 team that lost to John Chaney from UWGB?
Was Ripley on that team?
There's always a Ripley. For like 30 years, there was a Ripley.
I coached the Ripley for 4 years.
Yeah, they're all from Pulaski, and there's like 50 of them.
Yep.
I had Rock. Rock played for my dad.
Yeah, there was Ron. They were all ours too. But Ron was probably the great player on that team, and a kid, and Tom Anderson. Although that wasn't me.
Yeah,
right. Well, at that Cheney State, a lot of the guys I played with in high school,
sure,
and ended up going to Cheney State. A lot of Chester High School graduates, and we used to go to some games there when I was younger, and they were really fun to watch. And obviously pretty good.
Because a friend of mine is Rick Riley, and he's written books with that family. I'm going to see, Bo, in addition to your coaching acumen, if you've passed it down, Will, I want to know, who was the lead singer of Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes?
Harold Melvin, right?
Bo, who was it?
Teddy Pendergrass.
Teddy Pendergrass.
Okay.
Yes, Philly R&B. That's it. It's not very well known, but if you like R&B in Philly, right? Like, you can't miss that one.
No, the Intruders, the Delphonics. There's so many groups. Blue Magic. A lot of groups that competed with the Motown sound.
I'm going to finish this up with some coaching names that Wisconsin people should know, and I just want a quick word what you think of these guys. Start with the guy who built the GB program that Will runs now, Dave Buss.
I know Dave. Dave was a tough competitor, was an assistant when we coached against him, asked a lot of questions. He was always a guy who was looking to learn. And that always impressed me about him.
Mm-hmm.
He's a pretty good coach, and yet he didn't think he had all the answers. And I love those guys.
Coach McGuire over at Marquette.
Oh, I had bagels, Einstein bagels on Capitol when I was coaching at UWM. We would meet there, and you talk about a storyteller.
Yeah,
it was. He's right. Be a bartender for a while, and then which Will actually was when he was going to school at UWM, trying to make some money. But Al McGuire, just the best, I think, as far as. A guy that got players that let him play, but yet could control the ball. He could play at any speed, could coach at any speed, and I always liked Al. Yeah,
be a bartender or a cab driver for 6 months. Kind of in that vein, in that coaching tree, and I love him because I worked with him. Rick Majerus.
Oh, Rick was another guy who very competitive, X's and O's. He was always great at coming up with something, and I really liked that about him. And that he never stood still as a coach. He was always looking for that next out of bounds play, that next action off of motion, off whatever offense of scheme that they were using defensively. He would do some different things. I'm so thick-headed. I only played man-to-man and did it by taking away driving lines and pinching and squeezing and trying not to let people get to the rim. But, Rick did some things in coaching that impressed me quite a bit, in that he was pretty flexible with some things. And he was a tough guy to go against.
Yeah, I miss him dearly. He was a good friend. And finally, and you can expand here because I'm not sure people appreciate who he was and what he did. But the guy that brought you to Wisconsin, Bill Cofield, who was the first black head coach in the Big Ten at a major sport, and brought you there and had some really fabulous players.
Unfortunately, people remember the record at Wisconsin, but in order to get the Wisconsin job, people, I'm sure, do not know this. He won at Prairie View. Yep. Which was a very tough job. Before that, he won at Lincoln University, which is right near my hometown. Both schools that were basically historically black colleges. And then he comes to Racine and reached out through a couple contacts from Lincoln University, guys that I knew. They gave him my name. He brought me in, and put his arm around me and just kind of gave me the biggest break a guy could ever ask for in coaching, because we worked together for a year, and he was tough. He was tough on the guys, and then Terry Holland hires him when the school folded. It wasn't because of us. It's not why.
Good.
Then he was the first African-American assistant coach in the ACC. Terry Holland was the guy he went to work for. Mm-hmm. And they had that team with Averoni and Stokes and Wally Walker, and did well. And then that's when he got the Wisconsin job, and we had stayed in touch with each other. And he said if he ever got another major job, that he would ask me. So it took me about 2 seconds to say yes. And he believed in me, brought me in. Would not have had any chance if it wasn't for him. And like I said, one loss record, you can say this, that, and the other thing about it. I thought we had some pretty good players, but sometimes things just don't mesh. And it's happened to a lot of other coaches because it's hard to keep a job. But to me, he meant the world. He died of pancreatic cancer, which is one of the reasons Kelly and I are so active in the fight against cancer. But he's the man that brought me here, that gave me the biggest break of my life.
Well, and I will leave with one of the wins that I say to Trevor and I bring up all the time is I'll never forget as a kid, and I had to wait to see the rebroadcast of it because we didn't have ESPN and all those things. But the 1979 season ender, when you guys beat Michigan State and Magic Johnson's team, is still one of the great recollections I have as a kid.
Unbelievable. Wes and I hugged right away. It was Wes Matthews hit the 48-foot shot, whatever the distance was. All I know is it went in. That was Magic's last college loss. They went on to win the whole thing, as you said. I didn't have much time to celebrate because I had to drive to Neenah, Wisconsin. We were recruited. It was an afternoon game, and I was going to see a high school game with Mike Krecklow, who was a really good player for Neenah. But yeah, the whole drive. There's some guys that went up with me to the game, and we reveled in that. That was a big day for Badger basketball, no question.
Yeah. And then, Trevor, as you can imagine this, a couple years ago, Jim Calhoun's got a tournament out here, and it happens to be at the club I'm in. And they go, "You're getting paired with a guy. He was a star at Bridgeport High in Connecticut. You'll have no idea who he is." And I sit down, it's Wes Matthews. That poor bastard, after 4 hours, wanted me out of the cart so bad. He's like, "I cannot believe that this is who I got picked with." You know, so whether it was this, whether it was talking about Stretch Gregory, whether it was talking about his kid, he was just like, "I gotta go." And now I see him every year at this thing, and it's much nicer. But he had no idea when he stepped in this car.
Still talk.
He was not going to get it. He got an earful for 18 holes. That poor guy.
He's come a long way, and
he has, and
he's done well now. And I'm really happy for him. But he's obviously pretty proud of his son too.
Yeah, and coach and is coaching girls teams here down in Bridgeport and doing well. Guys, thanks so much. We appreciate it. Will, good luck to you. I want to have something about GB because I've always had, we had when I was 13, 14, you were going to national championships. And then when I was in college and shortly after that and starting as a professional, we had Tony Bennett and I got to brag about him. So I can't wait for you to give me something to brag about here in Connecticut. And I'm going to let everybody know what's good with GB and the history of that program that they should know. So good luck to you both. Thank you for all the memories you gave us and what you have built and that Greg has sustained. And from what you tell us after watching practice, will be even better this year. Thanks so much to both of you.
Thanks, guys. It was a pleasure.
Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it.
Shut up and sit down.